Alright, Dragon Knight, finish it off with your Dragon Claw. Nice work, Dragon Knight. Alright, Dragon Knight, finish it off with your Dragon Claw. Wait, what? Fuck this. What is going on, guys? This is Dobbs here, bringing you another Pokemon video. And in this video, I'm going to go over 10 of the most biggest changes in Pokemon, ranging from the Pokemon Adventures manga, to the Pokemon anime, to even the video games. But before we start, I just wanted to show you guys this cool app called Amino. It's a mobile app that has a network of communities for every interest on the planet. That's right, not just Pokemon. Ranging from Overwatch to Smash Bros to even popular anime shows, this app is definitely one of the best places to connect with people who share the same interests. And to just name off, a few of my favorite communities would be Aminos like Pokemon, Halo, Zelda, Overwatch, and even Minecraft. So when you download the app, be sure to join the Pokemon Amino so that you can browse through tons of Pokemon content, text and voice chat with other trainers, and even play with the new feature, the Avatar Chat, which lets you create your own custom avatar. So yeah, be sure to follow me at Dobbs and use the hashtag Dobbs to tell me your own top 10 list. I'm going to choose my 5 favorites and reply on them, like them, and follow you on Amino. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Standing in at number 10, we have Lance in the Elite Four. Now, probably one of the biggest changes that I've seen in the Pokemon universe is the adaptation of the Elite Four inside the Pokemon manga. Believe it or not, these elite trainers are portrayed as the main antagonist of the yellow chapter of the Pokemon Adventures. That's right, instead of being a righteous group of respectable trainers who stand on top of the Pokemon League, this version consists of Lance and his comrades trying to exterminate the human race. Not only that, but Lance also has the ability to communicate telepathically with his Pokemon, as well as brainwashing any dragon type at his will. And if you're wondering how in the heck did Lance get these interesting powers, well, I'll go over that later in this video. But getting back to Lance and the Elite Four trying to destroy humanity, they were portrayed as so powerful that Red, Blue, and Green had to team up with the corrupt gym leaders of Kanto in order to take each of them down in a battle. It's honestly amazing seeing how strong the Elite Four is portrayed in the manga. Even Mewtwo, the legendary powerhouse, had trouble fighting against Lance alongside with Blaine, which to me is one of the coolest adaptations of the Pokemon universe. Expanding at number 9, we have the Multiverse. Now, theoretically speaking, this is probably the biggest change in the history of Pokemon. I mean, it's even larger than the universe itself. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, during the massive explosion of the ultimate weapon from the events of Pokemon X and Y, a split in the universe occurred that would change Pokemon forever. In the first universe, the events of Pokemon Red and Blue leading up to X and Y stayed intact. But in the second universe, across the world, thousands of regular stones transform into Mega Stones, giving birth to Mega Evolution, which in turn changed the timeline of Pokemon forever. So basically every time you see a Pokemon game that has Mega Evolution, it's most likely being taken place in the second parallel universe. That would mean that the events of Pokemon Origins, Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Moon, and the mainstream anime are all being taken place in the second created universe. It really makes you wonder what's going on in the original universe. Maybe this massive shift in the timeline caused newly created monsters. Let me know in the comments on what you think. Growing in at number 8, we have the Viridian Forest. Now, if you started playing Pokemon in the Generation 1 games, you definitely remember going through the deep Viridian Forest and battling a bunch of bug-type trainers. And even though it's one of the first major locations you travel through, it didn't really serve any importance to the storyline of the video games. But in the Pokemon manga, it's a completely different story because this exclusive forest has a major role in the storyline of the Yellow chapter. You see, according to the Bulbapedia, important characters such as Lance, Giovanni, and Yellow were born in or near this special landmark. And if you were still wondering how on earth Lance got his mysterious powers, you can blame Viridian Forest for that because according to his legend, every 10 years a child is born possessing the mysterious powers of the mystical forest. And if you're trying to figure out who Yellow was and how she's entangled with all of this, well, let's just say she's probably one of the most strongest Pokemon trainers to ever live. Because thanks to Verde and Forest, she has the power to not only talk to her Pokemon, heal her Pokemon, and control any Pokemon she desires, but she also has the ability to increase any Pokemon's level to an Elite Four standard. So basically automatic level 80 Pokemon with the ability to heal and brainwash them. Pretty epic. Creeping in at number 7, we have Lavender Town. Now, Lavender Town has a history of being one of the most creepy places in Pokemon. With its spooky purple tone and its daunting soundtrack, this haunted town would give any Pokemon fan a few nightmares. But if you grew up with the Pokemon Red and Blue games, you had it easy, because in the pre-release version of Pokemon Green, the soundtrack for Lavender Town was on another level. Here, check it out. Pretty spooky, right? There's even an infamous myth known as the Lavender Town Syndrome, where Japanese Pokemon players reportedly got really ill due to this horrifying theme, and apparently a lot of them were hospitalized because of the high frequencies behind this creepy tune. But don't worry, it's just a myth and probably not true, but I think we could all agree that this change in the Lavender Town theme was a good one, because we would probably still be having nightmares because of it. Traveling in at number 6, we have the Dex Older Classes. Now, it always feels like the main character from each Pokemon game has the same mentality and goal, which is ultimately to be the Pokemon Elite Champion. But in the Pokemon Adventures manga, it's a completely different story because each Dex holder has a unique characteristic that separates them from each other. What I'm talking about is that each character from each chapter has a unique trainer class that gives them an exclusive gift in a particular area. Starting from the top for each Dex holder, red is the fighter, blue is the trainer, green is the evolver, yellow is the healer, gold is the hatcher, silver is the exchanger, crystal is the catcher, ruby is the charmer, sapphire is the conqueror, emerald is the calmer, diamond is the emphasizer, pearl is the determiner, platinum is the understander, black and white are the dreamers, funny enough, X is the loner, Y is the flyer, and finally, sun is the saver and moon is the mixer. It's honestly refreshing seeing how they changed the whole aspect of the Pokemon characters. It's something that I would love to see more of in the video games, not just some soulless being that has no emotions. I'm looking at you, son. Transforming in at number 5, we have humans. Now, this is an interesting one because I didn't even know this was a thing until recently. If you didn't know, in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, inside the Canalave Library, there's an ancient book lying around that holds 3 legendary Sinnoh folktales. And if you translate the third folk story from Japanese to English, it states that there once was a time where Pokemon became very close to humans, they ate together at the same table, and there was no distinguish between the two. So basically, from my interpretation of this is straight up confirming that humans used to be Pokemon and they somehow evolved into what we are today. And to me, this is probably one of the biggest changes to happen within the Pokemon universe. I mean, if humans used to be Pokemon within their own universe, couldn't that mean that they are still Pokemon? And maybe the powers they hold is advanced intelligence? Who knows? It's kind of a wild thing to think about, and it's all up to interpretation. Let me know in the comments on what you think. Drafting in at number 4, we have beta Pokemon designs. Now, during the creation of Pokemon characters, a ton of edits occur until the final draft is made and is coded into the game. And after all of these years of seeing 8 generations of Pokemon, we rarely get a chance to see how they looked in the early stages of their inception. Luckily enough though, a small select few of early Pokemon designs have surfaced and displays how drastic their designs can change. Starting with probably the most drastic change ever is the beta design for Suicune and Raikou. As you can see, this design shows a lot of characteristics from the 2 legendary beasts, and it strikes me as if it were an ice electric type, which would have been really awesome. Another cool one is the assumed Beta Charizard, which was named Dragon 4. And from telling by its name, it seems that there were 3 other dragon designs drawn out until we got the final version of the infamous Charizard. And finally, probably one of my favorites, is this early design of Poliwhirl. As shown, you can see that this early Mon wore a crown and appeared to be very lazy, which maybe implied that this Poliwhirl was supposed to resemble a lazy king, which would have been really unique, and I'm pretty sure that this crown is the origin of the King's Rock, which would explain why Poliwhirl evolves when wearing it. This is definitely something that I think Game Freak should release more often. It really makes you appreciate their work. Advancing in at number 3, we have Pokemon Generations. Now for this one, I wanted to go over every big change from each Pokemon generation and maybe speculate on what we're going to see from Generation 8. So starting with Gold and Silver, the biggest change from this generation was the special defense stat. This separation would make Pokemon like Alakazam a glass cannon, but at the same time would give other Pokemon a chance in a battle. In Ruby and Sapphire, the introduction to abilities and double battles would shape the VGC scene for the future to come. In Diamond and Pearl, the physical and special split made battling more clear when trying to figure out the opponent's weakest point. In Black and White, the hidden abilities became long sought after due to their rareness and advantages. In X and Y, the Mega Evolution changed the game to what Pokemon are capable of, which in my opinion was the biggest leap of any Pokemon game. And finally, Sun and Moon, which introduced a new move called the Z move, which leads us to speculate on what we're going to see in Generation 8. And honestly, I have no idea, so let me know in the comments on what you think. Maybe a new typing? I'm not sure. Jumping in at number 2, we have Clefairy. Now, if you didn't know, Clefairy was originally going to be Ash's starter Pokemon. That's right, it is known that the marketers of the Pokemon anime thought Clefairy didn't have an exciting color scheme and that it would only appeal to a female demographic. So, in a last-ditch effort, they decided to change Ash's starter Pokemon to the Pikachu we all know and grew up with today. Pretty crazy, right? Well, it gets even crazier when you add a chaos theory to it. If you've ever heard of the butterfly effect, you know how catastrophic it can be to a linear timeline. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, the butterfly effect is basically the theory that something small can have massive effects. See where I'm going with this? So let's just say that Clefairy never got replaced and ended up being Ash's starter Pokemon. Here's a few things that would have probably happened. A Pokemon Pink version with Clefairy being the mascot, a Hey You Clefairy game for the N64, a bunch of knockoff Pokemon that would have looked similar to Clefairy, a possible Moon Tackle that would have been the counterpart of Voltackle, and probably my favorite, a Mimikyu that would have been jealous of Clefairy that would be disguised in his costume, which would have been really interesting. It's pretty insane to think that one change created such a massive effect on all of our lives. I couldn't even imagine a world where Clefairy would be the face of Pokemon. Could you? Slicing in at number 1, we have Gruesome Pokemon. Now this is definitely one of my favorite changes in the Pokemon universe, which is the adaptation of the Adventures manga where trainers are complete savages. Instead of having the generic, your Pokemon has feigned in mortal code, in this universe, trainers sometimes just annihilate their opponent. Like, for an example, in Chapter 14, that awful Arbok, Blue's powerful Charmeleon cuts an Arbok in half who was trying to melt red and blue with his corrosive acid. Another good example is the savagery by Giovanni. In Chapter 9, Make Way for Magmar, Giovanni was scouting out Red to see if he was a threat to Team Rocket, and in the turn of events, he ends up freezing a Magmar and obliterates it with his Cloyster. And finally, probably two of the most gruesome trainers in the Pokemon manga is Maxie and Archie. These two villainous leaders team up and go on a destruction spree, which I won't spoil, but trust me, it's pretty gruesome. But yeah, the Pokemon Adventures manga is definitely one of the best changes that I've seen in the Pokemon universe, which is why it's number 1 on this list. And there you go, 10 of the biggest changes in Pokemon. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like if you did, I appreciate it a ton. And also, if you're enjoying the channel, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter for fan interactions, video updates, and other cool stuff, follow me at Dobbs. Also, big shout out to CRT for helping me with all the manga information and resources, so be sure to follow him on Twitter as well. And for the question of the day, what do you think is the biggest change in Pokemon? Be sure to let me know down below in the comments. I can't wait to see what you guys have in mind. And I'll see y'all next time. See ya.